Hello and welcome to a movieboozer.com virtual pubcast. This is part 2 of our David Bowie special. In part 1, Bill, Leon, and I went over some of our favorite Bowie songs that we wanted to highlight. Some songs that are famous, some songs that are less well known, just to give everyone an idea of how Bowie as a artist really impacted us. Mm-hmm. And then this week, as you may recall from that video, we promised we would come back and we would go over David Bowie's final release within his lifetime, Black Star.
Well, I'm glad that you referred to this as part 2 because when we agreed to do a tribute, I was worried. I was like, should we talk about Black Star? Are we going to mention things from Black Star? And then the decision was made to just buckle down and do the whole album, which... I think that's, if you're going to pay homage, like considering that this is what happened, like the album dropped as a sort of final farewell, you kind of have to talk about it.
And it's worth noting that this is not, from what we understand, this is not going to be the final David Bowie album. It may be the last completed by him personally, or at least completed within and released within his lifetime. But I've found several different sources reporting that Bowie prepared a great deal of posthumous releases. Mm-hmm. And so we should see those trickle in the coming years, which is, I think that's a really cool legacy to leave to your fans, to say that, I put out so much material in my career that there were things that I maybe didn't feel comfortable with releasing at first, but I've grown to realize that maybe this stuff can be put out at some point. Mm-hmm. That's something that Frank Zappa did. There's a lot of posthumous Zappa releases.
Which I was gonna take a jab at the Laughing Gnome and say this coming from the man who released the Laughing Gnome at the beginning of his career, and I'm sure you can find something comparable with Zappa as far as that goes. Reuben and the Jets, maybe. I don't think he really cared for that album all that much.
Well, with Reuben and the Jets, he actually, I wouldn't say he didn't care for it. He never felt completely certain that that the album was well produced. But you know what? At the same time, the fact is that every artist has songs that they personally like, and some songs that they don't feel comfortable with. And it's worth noting sometimes songs that they might even consider songs that they don't like or that they hate of theirs could still be good. It's that personal judgment level that goes in. Right. A great example of that, Bob Dylan. He has his bootleg series, an ongoing series of releases that are being put out by his studios, and there's in the liner notes they talk about a lot of songs he's just not satisfied with, and when you listen to it, you're like, this is as good as, and in some cases better than, what he was actually putting out at the time.
There's another one which never got a follow-up, and it's always bothered me, Shinola by Ween. Mm-hmm. Shinola was stuff that didn't make the final cuts of all their albums prior to it, and it's called Shinola Volume 1, and which implies that we're going to get other installments, but that's never happened.
Of course, Ween is the band that put out 12 Golden Country Greats with only 10 songs on it.
Yeah, I mean,
ostensibly the 12 Greats are the 12 session musicians who played on it.
Oh, I didn't even make that connection. I just thought it was a clever joke.
It is a clever joke, but I would say that I totally agree with you, and actually, there's another artist I'm a big fan of, John Fogerty. In the mid '70s, he recorded an entire album called Hoodoo that he scrapped, mm-hmm. and he even recorded he even ordered his studio to destroy the master tapes.
But they didn't.
Well, no, they did destroy them. The only version of it known to exist is a test pressing on vinyl that's owned by some random German music collector, and someone managed to rip the audio off of that, and so there is an existing bootleg of the entire album, but it's from the vinyl, so the sound quality is not perfect. and it's actually very raw because it was recorded. You can tell that it was recorded using a tape recorder back in the 70s.
I just want to split the difference and say I would love to see John Fogerty try to finish Brian Wilson's Smile records.
Well, Brian Wilson has kind of finished Smile twice, actually.
Yeah, but nobody cares about that. Nobody. This is hard to say because it's like I didn't want a Brian Wilson Smile. I wanted the Beach Boys album Smile, and I wanted it in 1970 or 71 or whenever the fuck it was supposed to come out. And Brian Wilson's versions, it's like goodness being filtered through an old man who's been through hell and back, and it's like that's not what I wanted.
Well, there is Smile, which is the Brian Wilson version, and then I'm pretty sure there was also let's see, what is the other one? I'm looking at the that's right. The Brian Wilson Presents Smile was the one from 2004, and then in 2011 the Smile Sessions was released,
which is just like demos mainly.
Right. It's a compilation that also includes some of it includes the finished Smile recordings for the most part. Just most of them were reconstructions of what was thought the songs could have been. So honestly, we'll never know how that album would have actually turned out.
Lifehouse, the Who's Lifehouse that never happened.
Right. There are a lot of Lifehouse bootlegs out there, and if you buy the deluxe edition of Who's Next, there's a shitload of bonus tracks, most of which are kind of incoherent. Here's the thing. Most people have said, if you've seen interviews with Roger Daltrey or John Entwistle or even Keith Moon from the time, they would admit they had no friggin' clue what the whole concept behind Lifehouse was going to be, or how they didn't understand it. It was Pete Townshend's, like, kind of his baby.
Right.
And over the course of the sessions that became Who's Next, Townsend sort of he basically admitted this by the end. He gave up trying to explain it to people, and he just said, you know what, we've got a ton of songs here, let's just release the best ones.
Right.
And that's where you get Who's Next, which I would argue contains some of their best songs, but I also think that it's a pretty disjointed album as a result. It doesn't have the connecting tissue that some of their best albums from that period have.
I disagree, but this is not a review of Who's Next.
Right. I just thought I'd throw that out there. I love Who's Next, but it's no Quadrophenia.
It wasn't trying to be.
No, well, I mean, Quadrophenia didn't exist yet, so.
And I think the best way to put it is like Quadrophenia is great, but to get the full mileage out of it, you need to hear it all in sequence. Oh, Who's Next? Who's Next? You can jump in anywhere, and it's great.
Well, I would argue that there are at least every side of Quadrophenia has a song, at least a song or two that stands on its own.
Mm-hmm. But I don't mean that. I mean to get the full scope of what that song, because I mean it does work as a big whole.
That's true. Well, here's the thing. It probably would have ended up being that way if Lifehouse had managed to be a full project.
I'm glad that it didn't.
With that said, we do really need to get into our main topic. I don't mean to cut you off there. Our main topic being, of course, the songs of David Bowie's Black Star.
Right.
Now, Black Star, when did you hear that this album, first of all, existed?
I want to say 2 weeks before he died. That sounds about right. Like whenever the first music video had come out, because that got a lot of press.
Yes. I remember when that was released. I heard about it a couple months ago, but I, just was reading the trades, and suddenly, it didn't occur to me at all that this was going to be his last release. And
well, I think we mentioned this in our previous installment, which is that the public at large really wasn't aware that he was sick.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I wasn't.
So it's interesting. Apparently, this is one of only 3 Bowie album covers which does not feature his image. Yeah, the others being The Man Who Sold the World and the UK release of The Buddha of Suburbia.
I've never seen that cover.
Yeah. And that's interesting. So he appears on just about everything else. But what's interesting is the album cover had a little controversy when it came out. Some fans were saying that it was a boring cover, that doesn't look like there was thoughts put into it.
I think it's fascinating because I don't understand what it is. I don't understand the point of it, and that because that makes me ask more questions. Like that's doing what art should do. It's not just like I see this and I accept it. Like I'm legitimately confused because you have the one black star and then you have all the pieces at the bottom, and it means something. I don't know what, but it definitely means something.
Well, here's something that's interesting. First of all, I am going to populate. Let's see if screen share works for this. I'm going to get the album cover up. Yes, here we go. So here's the album cover for Black Star. As I'm talking, it should appear. For those listening in, the album cover is a giant black star, hence the title, and underneath it are some segments of the star that are actually meant to spell or symbolize the letters for Bowie.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
It's meant to be a stylization. So, like, the first segment is meant to be a B. The star is meant to be the O. The 2 segments angling together are the W, followed by the arrow pointing up for the I.
Looks like the Star Trek logo.
You're right. And then the third one with the 3 points to it being the E. And the artist who created it also created the covers for some of Bowie's other albums, Heathen, Reality, and The Next Day. The Next Day being probably the easiest one to do because that one...
It was just heroes with the white text or the white block.
Right, exactly. And that was sort of a knowing jab at the fact that the album is very much... The Next Day very much looks at his career in the past and kind of recalls a lot of elements of that.
I meant to listen to that before we did this today. I just didn't. I wanted to listen to Black Star at least twice. I've never heard The Next Day. How is it?
I like it quite a bit. It's I would actually say Black Star is a more daring album. The Next Day definitely has the feeling of comfort, which I think makes sense because it had been over a decade, I think, since his previous album, or nearly a decade.
Yeah.
And so there was the statement he had to say is, that I'm back. And in doing that, he decided to go with, to structure his songs in a style that kind of reminiscent of places he's been before, while at the same time, definitely it still has a modern production sound to it. Black Star, on the other hand, to segue into it, feels much more like I would call a David Bowie experimental piece. It really it recalls while it doesn't sound at all like the Brian Eno albums like Heroes and Low and Lodger, it has the same independent spirit of it, of an artist trying something unusual and new.
Black Star reminded me a few times of Captain Beefheart.
Yes, I could say that to an extent. It doesn't have the bluesiness of Captain Beefheart, but it does have the strange poetic rhythms of it, particularly of some of Beefheart's latter day albums that he recorded in like the mid '80s.
Which I'm not familiar with, but I've heard songs here and there. Just for me, it's Safe as Milk and Trout Mask, and that's as far as entire albums. That's where my knowledge lies.
I can definitely give you some more tips on that in the future. I would say, just to throw out one suggestion,
Ice Cream for Crow.
Well, Ice Cream for Crow is good. Shiny Beast Bat Chain Polar that's a good one.
I feel like you've sent me a song off that before.
And with that said, let's go ahead and delve into the first track, the title track, Black Star, which is 9 minutes and 58 seconds long, so almost a full 10 minutes. This being, I believe, this may be his longest song since Station to Station.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong on that. I haven't listened to a lot of his stuff from the 90s.
Neither have I.
But that's an opportunity I plan to cure this year. This is the year of Bowie, as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
Now, the beginning of the song, the way it opens up, is strange. You hear kind of a weird off-rhythm drumming that comes in, and guitars that do not play to the rhythm of those drums at all, and almost like a spacey kind of synth orchestra in the background, and Bowie's droning, almost dirge-like moan of a vocal in the song.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first heard this, I have to admit, I didn't know what to make of it. It kind of...
I didn't like it at first, and I'm not going to pretend that I was in love with this from the start, because no, like, it is off-putting the first time you hear it.
And I think it's meant to be that way. It's stylistically designed to be that way, so to say.
But we can diminish the effects of it.
Yes, but it really does. It's off-putting, and yet now that I've heard it several times, I think this is probably my 5th time I've heard it. I kind of get where he's going with it. Is this sort of almost, this song begins kind of like a weird, creepy funeral dirge, and I think this album, he knew at this point that he had cancer and that he was dying. I think he crafted this album specifically to address the fact that he was going to be leaving this behind as his last work.
Right.
And reading the first verse in the lyrics, in the Villa of Ormond stands a solitary candle. In the center of it all, your eyes. Which, it's so cryptic, and I can't for the life of me try to figure that out. And then the second verse comes in. On the day of execution, only women kneel and smile. At the center of it all, your eyes.
Do you think, and this, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, I only mean this in like a cool artistry kind of way. Do you think he's pulling an Andy Kaufman here? Do you think he's just being abstract to mess with everybody?
You know, I mean, that could be, and I'm not trying to delve into this to find any kind of deep metaphysical meaning or anything like that. I don't know if I would call it a Andy Kaufman so much as maybe he's being cryptic for cryptic's sake in order to sort of craft a little bit of a mythos before the second half of the song. And
well, I would also say he's always been a little cryptic. His lyrics have always been a little abstract and kind of weird and hard to decipher.
Yeah. And
maybe it's just trying to conserve that identity or that image. And it's not, I don't mean it, again, I don't mean it in any kind of disrespectful way, because this is experimental. This is crafted. This is not just something that, a singer-songwriter churns out because they want to put out an album. Like, there was a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like conviction. There's a lot of conviction going on here.
Absolutely. And in the music video, which we should mention, there's this strange imagery that's just, it's sort of gothic and almost post-apocalyptic. There's that, and we get to the middle, sort of the bridge verse, and in that bridge verse, you get the synth orchestra comes in, the strings very loose and very vivid, and this is where I argue that this is him explicitly addressing his himself confronting his life. I mean, the verse begins, something happened on the day he died. Spirit rose a meter and stepped aside.
Well, they think that part of the song sounds so much like Bowie doing a nice bridge or something. Yeah, like it screams Bowie.
And then the verse continues. Spirit rose a meter and stepped aside. Somebody else took his place and bravely cried, I'm a black star. Which, to me, is somebody else took his place. To me, this is him saying, almost saying, that the day he dies, someone else will be there to keep the candle burning, so to speak. And that actually, you can even put that up. Remember the first verse. He mentions that there's a solitary candle, and in the center of it all, your eyes. So, if you want to get really deep in this, everyone's eyes are focused on the one burning candle, which could be Bowie, or it could be other famous people. And on the day that candle burns out, someone else came in, took its place. That's kind of what I'm getting out of that. Saying that, there will always be another artist to inspire people.
Is one of his lyrics, I'm not a film star?
Yes, he says that.
I like that. That's great.
The call and response of the second half of the album is interesting. I can't answer why. I'm a black star. Just go with me. I'm not a film star.
Yeah.
It's like, and he says, I'm not a pop star. Other things he says he is or is not. I'm not a Marvel star. He says that. I'm not a flam star. I'm not a white star. I'm a black star. Now, I'm curious what the difference is between a white star and a black star. I don't think he's going into race. I think Bowie's above something as base as that.
He transcended that shit a long time ago.
Oh, yeah. Maybe I'm not a white star is sort of his way of poking fun at the thin white Duke era, so to speak.
It's possible. I mean, that's what's great about it, though, is that there's actually a tons of ways you can interpret it. Maybe Black Star is like a black sheep. It's
Could be.
I'm a star, but I'm also kind of a renegade, and I don't please everybody, but I do what I want to do.
Bowie had some hits in his career, but he really never broke out as kind of like, as a huge thing. And I think maybe it's because he always did his own thing. And as soon as he has a huge hit, he immediately goes and does something completely different from what he did before to create a new experiment. I mean, what does he do after The Laughing Gnome? He completely recoils from that and does Space Oddity, which is a much more complex song. After Space Oddity became a huge hit, what does he do? He recoils and starts doing some really experimental rock and roll and gets his way into developing glam rock as a concept. And glam rock took a while to catch on. I mean, Hunky Dory, which is arguably one of his most famous albums, was not a financial success until after the fact. So the song Black Star is cryptic and strange. I still, as many times as I've heard it, I don't know quite what to think of it, but the more I listen to it, the more I want to learn about it. Would you agree?
We're still talking about the title track, Black Star?
Yes.
Okay, I was lagging out there. For those who don't know, I'm on the East Coast where there's currently a blizzard going on, so my internet might be a little fucked.
Oh, my internet might be a little blank. So, Bill has just cut out for a moment. Let's see if he comes back. The next song that we have to discuss on the album is called 'Tis a Pity She Was a Whore, which is interesting. This song is kind of the most vulgar song on the album, so to speak, in terms of pure language. Now, Bill, are you back?
I am back. We good?
All right. You cut out for a moment there.
Yeah.
We're just about to get into "'Tis a Pity She Was a Whore."
On the subject of the title song, when I first heard it, I wasn't in love with it until that really Bowie sounding bridge came in, but then it got even fucking weirder. But I was still on board. And then as times went on, especially posthumously, when I listen to this, it has a whole different connotation than it did before he died and I listened to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that hauntingness sets in, that sort of weird empty feeling you get because you're like, shit, he's gone.
The context of it really changed when he passed away.
Yeah. Which I think, and that's another thing. Like that was a conscious decision. He knew that this album went to #1. I think it's #1 right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least not. I mean, of course, Glenn Frey passed away, so of course the Eagles are gonna.
Also, this is one of the rare times that we will ever be doing a show where Ken is reviewing a current hit album.
Oh wow, yeah, that's very true. I generally don't listen to those. That said, this may be a hit album, but I don't think you're going to hear Black Star played on pop radio anytime soon.
They might have the day he died. I don't know, but no. Outside of that, I doubt it. Yeah, they're not going to play this up against Nicki Minaj or some shit. That's just not going to happen. Nor should it happen.
So the next song that we're putting on is actually one of the shorter songs on the album. "'Tis a Pity She Was a Whore."
I really like the way this sounds. It's really laid back. It makes a great second track.
And it's got this strange improvisational jazz kind of background to it, alongside a synth chorus that's really unusual. And the lyrics are this is Bowie kind of having some melancholy fun, because there's a sense of dark humor to it. The first verse, "Man, she punched me like a dude. Hold your mad hands," I cried. "'Tis a pity she was a whore. 'Tis my curse, I suppose." So I'm
does that mean that?
What's that?
Does that line mean that he attracts people of questionable backgrounds?
Well, I mean, I suppose there's a certain Andy Warhol-esque kind of crowd that I would assume Bowie would have attracted in his time. He didn't cultivate it nearly as much as Warhol did, but or at all. He was a very solitary figure in that respect. But I would imagine people who would be attracted to that would. I don't know if this song is autobiographical or not, but if it is, then more power to Bowie, hanging out with prostitutes so late in his life.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, now that you mention it, that didn't happen. Unless he decided to take a role in a Harmony Korine film.
Yeah, in a way, this song could almost be a Harmony Korine like intro theme or something for a movie.
I want to see this movie now.
Yeah. Well, the second verse is even more silly. "Black struck the kiss. She kept my cock. Smote the mistress, drifting on. 'Tis a pity she was a whore. She stole my purse with rattling speed." I don't even know what that means, but it's clear that there's, he's having a laugh at it.
It's all open for interpretation. I think that's obvious. I have not found a single moment on this album where I was sure of what the lyrics meant.
Yeah, this song, the lyrics are incredibly cryptic, but also there's a strange sense of humor to it, and a comedic poetry that still has that trademark melancholy streak. I would love to hear more of an explanation for it, but I don't need to. it's more fun almost coming up with a possible explanation behind it. And now we'll go ahead and move along to Lazarus. Now, Lazarus was also released with a music video behind it. Bill and I actually just watched it together prior to recording this. It's much like Black Star, really unsettling.
I have it playing right now, and I'm looking at it. And the whole video is 4:3. I don't think letterbox is the right word, but
standard definition.
I kept expecting the black bars to get pushed aside, and they never do.
And in fact, sometimes they get even tighter in.
Mm-hmm.
And this song opens with a lyric which a lot of news sources have been quoting after his death, because the first line of the song is, "Look up here, I'm in heaven."
The fucking guitar on this sounds so good.
The bass lines in the background too.
Yeah. But the guitar here reminds me of like the Birthday Party or something, like just some weird goth fucking doom sounding, like.
Lazarus definitely has a Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds element to it.
Yes.
And I would say, actually, in terms of that, I agree with you when you say the Birthday Party, but the reason I'm saying Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, when I first heard it, the thought on my mind and the vocals that he was evoking reminded me so much of some of Nick Cave's work on some of his later albums, like if you've ever heard the album No More Shall We Part.
Yo, we were talking yesterday. This has nothing to do with Bowie or Black Star, but me and Ken were having a conversation yesterday about, I guess it does have something to do with Bowie. Artists that began in the 70s who have made something good in the last 20 years. Nick Cave. Or
at least, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't mention Nick Cave yesterday.
Yeah, that's one we didn't, because there are plenty of artists who have. It's just they're usually not,
they're not the ones you expect.
Right, and their albums are usually not huge hits.
True.
But with that said, the verses, I'm going to go ahead and just read a couple verses from Lazarus. "Look up here, I'm in heaven. I've got scars that can't be seen. I've got drama, can't be stolen. Everybody knows me now. Look up here, man, I'm in danger.
Crazy.
I've got nothing left to lose. I'm so high it makes my brain whirl. Drop my cell phone down below. Ain't that just like me?"
Bowie said, "I'm not a Marvel star."
Yeah.
I'm looking at this Lazarus video. He should have played the Joker as an old dude.
Oh my God. He could have.
He fucking should have. Batman Beyond is a series where Bruce Wayne is too old and passes the torch down to his kid, but the Joker's still out there and he's super old. I don't know why. I'm watching this. I just want to see Bowie try to do the Joker.
I think he could have easily done it. And the Joker is always, like Mark Hamill's version of the Joker has a vaguely British kind of lilt to his voice.
Yes, absolutely.
So I could see that working.
That would be so fucking cool. He looks like the Joker in this Lazarus video.
Yeah. Lazarus is such a haunting song in the way it's presented. It's got this great guitar line in it. Almost the guitar will occasionally hit these beats that are almost spaghetti western.
Oh yeah.
And I would say this is easily the highlight of the album. That's not to say that the other songs in the album are weak, but it's such a powerful piece.
Mm-hmm.
And lyrically, it's probably his most overt in that reading the lyrics, he's addressing his audience from his time, up in the sky in heaven. That's what the song is, and I just find it fascinating that because he had 18 months after his diagnosis to record his final album, he put thought into it. And not only did he put thought into it, but he was make an impact with it. Mm-hmm. And I feel that he does.
Oh yeah, this is unbelievably successful at everything it attempts to do.
Mm-hmm.
it's almost effortless, which is like, to anybody that tries to be creative or tries to come up with original things, it's almost frustrating in a way. You're just like, this fucking guy was perfect till the day he died. I mean, it's great. It deserves to be, acknowledged and cherished until the end of time. But it's just one of those things where you're like,
I read an interview with Tony Visconti, who said that he was deeply, deeply just sick through this entire recording process, and he was working his ass off every day to get the tracks to be just right.
That's fucking crazy.
And and apparently he had his. With cancer patients, you often will have your high days, your good days, where you're like really on point, and then you'll have your days where you are just in hell.
Right.
And he went through all of those during it.
I believe it.
Bowie, according to Visconti, Bowie said that this album was meant to be his parting gift for his fans.
Did that statement come out when the album came out, or was that a posthumous statement?
No, after Bowie died, Visconti took an interview.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that would have been a weird little footnote to have on the album when it came out.
Right. Well, I haven't read the liner notes yet. The version of it I've listened to, I'm still waiting on the album to be delivered to me. I'm listening to the auto rip version that Prime lets you listen to after you've purchased the album.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I have a chance to peruse the actual liner notes, I'll let you know if there's anything in it that references mortality.
Right.
I would say that doesn't. I wouldn't imagine that he would do that explicitly. So we move on now to the next song, which is Sue, or In a Season of Crime. And it begins right away with a kind of chunky electric guitar riff.
Sounds like the 90s. Who does this sound like? This sounds like Super Furry Animals or something like that. Like a slick British band doing some bum, 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 bum. It sounds like it could fit on a James Bond soundtrack.
A James Bond soundtrack from that time period.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. The lyrics on this are... I'm not sure what to make of it. It's... Listen to this first bit. Sue, I got the job. We'll buy the house. You'll need the rest, but now we'll make it. Sue, the clinic called. The x-ray's fine. I brought you home. I just said home. And then...
I didn't even pay attention to the lyrics. And that's just me as a music listener. Like, lyrics are the last thing I pay attention to.
Right.
But I don't know why. For some reason, that's just fucking great. I love that.
And then it follows with... and following that, Sue, you said you wanted writ. Sue the Virgin on your stone for your grave. Why too dark to speak the words? For I know that you have a son. Which is like, I really, the lyrics in this one just baffle me. I can't even begin. There's a lot of imagery to it. I mean, particularly the element where he says the X-ray's fine. Where it's like, so is there more to this than we know? Is there something? Are we once again talking about his illness?
Maybe. I don't know. Did he know anyone named Sue?
That's a good question. I'll look that up right now, because the one thing I know about Bowie is that he was married to his death. Let's see. His wife, Aman Mohammed Abdulmajid, however you pronounce it. I forget. I know she's Somali. Yeah, it says here she was a fashion model and an actress. She married Bowie in 1992, and they had
More
2
power
children.
to them. Duncan Jones.
No, Duncan Jones was from a previous marriage, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Cool. Duncan Jones, by the way, was one of the first people to announce his death, basically confirming it. He made Moon, right?
Yes.
Right. I've never seen it. Is it good? Is it worth watching?
I actually haven't seen it either. That's on my short list of movies I need to look up.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, Duncan Jones, or Duncan Zowie Haywood Jones. I love
great.
that, Zowie.
Zowie is like his Schmilson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bowie's prior wife, Angela Bowie.
Oh. Should we talk about that?
What should we talk about? Do you know something about her?
The Rolling Stones song Angie?
Is that about her?
I was told that song is about Angie finding David Bowie and Mick Jagger banging.
Whoa.
You've never heard this?
No.
That's what I was told years ago by a dude that played Gene Simmons in a Kiss cover band. So, reputability here is kind of out the window. But if his wife's name was Angie, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, I'm actually looking that up right now because I'm very curious.
I'm surprised you've never heard that theory.
Okay, so the song from... See, here's the thing. I've actually never heard Goat's Head Soup, so I don't even know if I've heard the song Angie.
I have, but only because someone told me this story. And I was like, I should listen to this.
It's about the end of a romance. There was...
Pulling it up right now.
Okay, it says here there was speculation the song was about David Bowie's wife, Angela. It could have also been about Keith Richards' newborn daughter, who was Dandelion Angela Richards. And it says here, Richards, who wrote almost all the music and lyrics in the song, claimed in his autobiography the name Angie was a pseudonym for heroin, and that the song was about his attempt to quit it while detoxing in Switzerland.
Let's pull up that YouTube episode. Oh, look, it plays. That's amazing. The video plays.
Did you? Oh, you just pulled up the video for Angie?
I just pulled it up because I saw it was there. Look at these guys in the 70s. Keith Richards doesn't even look like Keith Richards.
Yeah, the reason why I've never heard Goat's Head Soup is I was told from most people I know that that's the album where Mick Jagger had basically finally decided that, like, he was going to not just be a star, off stage, but on stage as well. And he was
right,
as in, like, instead of being a singer, I'm going to be a celebrity. You know what I mean?
The only thing that really made me think twice about this song is seeing that Dancing in the Street music video where there's no other word for it. They're acting gay together. Like, that might be insensitive to say, but have you seen that music video? Two straight men don't act or dress that way.
Well, both of them have a certain androgynous streak in them.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. And even if they were lovers, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the fact that it was, like, kept secret and covered up. And
well, if it in fact is real, of course.
They are two of the biggest worldwide rock stars of all time. So maybe people just wanted that to be the case. Maybe it was sort of a fangirlish Kirk/Spock situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally possible. Look at all these flowers. What is going on? Why are there flowers on the neck of their guitar?
Yeah, well, it's some sort of conceit. I don't know.
Oh man, this is making their later '70s stuff look like gangbusters. Give me some brown sugar. Give me some. Start Me Up, for Christ's sake. Over this.
Well, I mean, Goat's Head Soup came in between Brown Sugar and Start Me Up chronologically. So.
Would you start me up? Start me up, you never stop.
Yeah, it's okay, interesting. Apparently,
you see how he's sitting there bored while the players are just playing because he has nothing to sing.
Yeah,
that's a shitty. I've been in that position. That's not a fun position to be in. I wasn't dressed in a leisure suit like I was about to drug a girl, though.
God damn.
Hey,
all right.
Leisure Suit Larry games did something to me.
With that said, Bill, why don't we go ahead and move on to the next song on Black Star?
Oh, we can't watch the Dancing in the Street video? No, I'm kidding.
Well, we could if this was a Rolling Stones music
well,
episode,
that's Bowie and Jagger. That's a solo. That's or what do you call that? A team up track?
I'll tell you what. Let's go ahead and just move on from there. Okay, right. The next song on the album, "Girl Loves Me."
Waiting and playing. Now,
"Girl Loves Me" has a strange opening to it, with Bowie kind of screeching the lyrics in a way, and it's kind of when I first heard it, I didn't know what to make of it.
I thought it was annoying at first, but it's not.
I read the lyric. When I read it, what's that?
I said I thought this was annoying at first, but upon a second and now a third and fourth listen, it's not. It's not annoying at all.
Well, what's interesting, he's writing clearly with a sort of the dialogue he's writing with is very slang-oriented, and I almost wonder if there's some sort of very British cadence to it I don't quite understand. Listen to these lyrics and tell me if these make any sense to you.
All right.
Sheena so sound, so teedy up this malchick, say, party up mooj, nanny veloset round on Tuesday.
Now I'm going to stop you right there and say malchick is a word that I recognize from A Clockwork Orange.
Right, and veloset also.
Really? Oh. The writer of Clockwork Orange, Alex something, I don't remember his name. I hate that slang. I hate the fact that when I read that book in high school, I had to translate every other word.
Wait. Did you have to read that for high school?
I chose to for a book report.
Okay.
But I love the movie. I saw the movie and I loved the movie, so I was like, I'll give the book a shot. This is why I don't fucking read books, by the way. Sitting there fucking every other word in this book I have to translate, and I'm like, why would you write a book this way? This is a nightmare. This is a nightmare.
It's
homework.
It's an exercise in. All right, well, you chose to read it, man, and so what I'm going to say is that...
Well, first of all, I dropped that and picked a different book for that book report, but don't write a fucking book in your own made-up slang to where if you are going to do that, make the made-up slang clear in the text of the book, because it's nowhere in the book. I'll tell you this, the translations for those words are not in the book. It's fucking bananas. It's fucking bananas.
Well, I mean, what can I say? The concept of writing a book in your own language is a exercise that has been done numerous times.
I did finish the book. I have read A Clockwork Orange.
Mm-hmm.
The ending is different, but I think I've told you about this before.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird as fuck that he's using Clockwork Orange slang in this.
Well, let me just say this. Him using Clockwork Orange slang shouldn't be necessarily a problem. I find it...
it's not. No, it's because it's a song, and it's not a book trying to tell a story.
Here's what I will say, though, Bill. If you really want to get into some unusual territory, you should get into some James Joyce and try to read Finnegan's Wake. Have you ever heard of Finnegan's Wake?
Never even heard of it. What is it?
Well, James Joyce, he was an author, late 1800s, early 1900s for the most part. Right. And Finnegan's Wake was published actually after his death, I believe. He didn't get to actually finish it. Oh. The book was kind of a long time in Genesis for him. He basically created his own language for writing the book. And it consisted of a mixture of English terms, all multilingual puns, portmanteaus, and really, the book is notoriously one of the most difficult reads known to man, just because it's intentionally archaic and vague.
Did J.R.R. Tolkien ever write a book in all Elvish or Elven?
I don't. I know that he wrote a great deal of like language translations and stuff like that.
Which is not a book with a story and characters. I mean, yes, that's part of his lore, and that's like, if fucking, what's his name, whoever wrote Clockwork Orange, wanted to make, like, the language guide to the world of A Clockwork Orange, that's what he should have done, and gave that fucking book a third-person narrator. Because I will say this, like, you've never read the book, right?
No.
Think about the film. Take the visuals away and have the story told to you by Malcolm McDowell in the slang with no kind of exposition or explanation to what words mean. It's just a first-person story, like, narrative with the slang in there, and it's a fucking mess. It's a fucking mess. The fact that Stanley Kubrick made a great film out of that book is astounding.
Okay, well, I can't speak to it since I've tried, but let me go ahead and read an excerpt from Finnegan's Wake for you, just to see if you would enjoy reading something such as this.
Maybe.
All right, here's an excerpt from Chapter 1, Book 1, Chapter 1. River Run, past Even Adams, from swerve of shore to bend of bay, brings us by a commodious vicus of recirculation back to Howth Castle and environs. Sir Tristram Velour de Amars, for over the short sea, had Passencore re-arrived from North America, on this side and scraggy isthmus of Europe Minor to wilder fight his peninsulate war, nor had top Sawyer's rocks by the stream, on key exaggerated themselves to Lawrence County.
Would you read this whole book?
Fuck no.
Okay, that's what Clockwork Orange is like.
I've actually read other James Joyce, mostly some short stories, and while he didn't write quite as vague as this in those, he was notoriously challenging to read. And yeah, here's the thing. I hugely admire the talent that it takes for someone to write something as a linguistic exercise.
It does, but fuck if anybody wants to read it.
Well, it's a cryptic thing, and it's the kind of challenge that perhaps only a linguist would want to delve into. I know that Hawk Rickjaw attempted to read Finnegan's Wake, by the way, so you should ask him about his experience.
So I want to ask you this, though, and I know that I'm going to ask, is J.D. Salinger still alive?
No, he just died a couple years ago.
Okay. So he's not as old as James Joyce. He's just sort of this classic writer. I knew he was alive for a while.
It kind of in hiding.
I've seen two separate jabs at people based on the fact that we've been losing so many celebrities lately. Abe Vigoda and Keith Richards oddly getting shit upon right now because I don't know if people actually want them to die, but there's running jokes of like Abe Vigoda found still alive in New York hotel and Keith Richards found still alive, and it's like, first of all, you're not fucking funny because you're gonna feel like an asshole if they die tomorrow. Second of all, Abe Vigoda and Keith Richards, like, what is there not to respect about those guys? I know Good Burger, fine, whatever. But, like, the man was in The Godfather. Let's cut Abe Vigoda a fucking break.
Let's go ahead and do a quick check here. And And yes, indeed, Abe Vigoda is still alive, ladies and gentlemen, as of the recording of this. For those who don't know, there is a website that is www.abevigoda.com. And this site has been in existence.
Somebody bought the rights to that wasn't him?
Yes, abevigoda.com has been the Abe Vigoda status for at least as long as I can remember. So we're talking I think 1997-ish would have been when I first got sustainable visual-based internet. And this website existed that far back. And every time you hit the reload button, it will tell you whether or not Abe Vigoda is still alive or not.
When he dies, that shit might get some hits.
Well, I'll tell you, here's the thing. The Abe Vigoda status counter exists because of a long-running joke that has happened since, I believe, the 80s, where a newspaper accidentally reported that he had died.
Well, I mean, he's super fucking old.
Well, yeah, and he was he was old to people back then.
He's one of those actors that have never been young, like Donald Pleasance.
Right. Well, I mean, Godfather was his first real movie appearance, and
has Donald Sutherland ever been young?
Donald Sutherland? Oh, hell yeah, he's been young. If you look at Donald Sutherland's stuff from
to preface, well, that's the thing. To preface that question, the first time I ever saw him was in Animal House.
Animal House?
He plays a college professor that.
Oh yeah, shit. Yeah. Okay.
Donald Sutherland is in fucking Animal House.
I forgot about that. It's been a while.
That was the first time I ever seen him, and then I saw Body Snatchers after that. So
okay.
I always just associated him because he plays a teacher in that, so he's kind of an adult and older gentleman.
His early '70s stuff. A couple movies I'd recommend. First of all, the movie MASH is a classic comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Robert Altman, and it's I think you'd be surprised how incredibly dark the comedy gets. I mean, we're talking the point in the 70s when people could start doing pretty much whatever they wanted. I actually think MASH might have been technically 1969.
What do you mean? Like release date 1969?
It might. I think it was 70 or 69. MASH movie.
Let me mash this movie.
1970. Okay, so that means it was shot in 69.
Mm-hmm.
All right, makes sense. Well, anyway, yeah, that's one I would recommend. Also, and I've said this so many times, Bill, Kelly's Heroes with Clint Eastwood. With Kelly's Heroes with Clint Eastwood, you have Donald Sutherland playing the only hippie in the United States Army during World War II. And his character in that movie, Oddball, is one of the all-time funniest characters, I swear. Just, one of my favorite scenes in the movie, he's just like, he's sitting on a lawn chair in the middle of a battle and drinking wine and eating cheese. And
that's not bad. That's funny. That's good imagery.
Yeah, and Don Rickles walks up to him and is like, "What are you doing?" And he just says, "Oh, drinking wine, eating cheese." And Don Rickles explains to him, you're the driver of the tank. What are you doing? Why aren't you helping? Why aren't you fighting? He says, "Oh, the thing's broken. I don't know what makes it work. I just drive the thing." And that's the thing. There's a running joke throughout it of one of his friends is a very negative person, and don't go with me all those negative waves. Negative waves is a repeating theme. The movie is hilarious. You gotta watch it.
Did Bowie ever do a song called Negative Waves?
Yeah, that sounds like something he might have. There is the Kinks song Permanent Waves about the hairstyle.
Oh yeah, I know that one.
So the next, we have 2 more Bowie songs to go in Black Star. We're fortunate that it's a short album because our willingness to go off on tangents here could have been the end of us.
I like that, but so this album is 41 minutes total,
which is about right for a vinyl.
Right? Yeah, it's. In fact, I will say this: I'd like to get this on vinyl. I don't own a record player, but I do have a small, growing vinyl collection. And this is, I wonder if like the liner notes and shit are still included with that package.
Oh, well, I mean, with a vinyl, of course the liner notes would be included. In fact, if anything, they'll be expanded.
Just bigger?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Album liner notes, when you buy the vinyl, it's usually bonus packaging.
I have some vinyls that I have that aren't prepackaged. Were bought used, so I've never encountered that.
Okay. Well, it's different now for sure. But I mean, back when vinyl was the norm.
Yeah.
That's different, but yeah, they're all about giving you extras when you buy the vinyl. Because when you buy the vinyl these days, you're usually paying $30-$40.
Okay.
With that said, the song that we're moving next to is Dollar Days.
Dollar Days.
And it begins...
Kmart. Wasn't that a thing, Dollar Days at Kmart?
I don't know, maybe.
I think it was.
So the song begins with a kind of a basic piano line and some jazzy... sort of a jazzy, almost old Hollywood kind of sound to it.
I was going to say, it kind of reminds me of Vince Guaraldi a little bit.
To an extent.
Just a little bit. Now it sounds more like easy listening AM radio, but in the start of it, it sounded like Vince Guaraldi.
So with that, as the lyrics go on, the first verse to this, cash girls suffer me. I've got no enemies. I'm walking down. It's nothing to me. It's nothing to see. If I never see the English evergreens I'm running to, it's nothing to me. It's nothing to see. And then he follows up with, I'm dying to push their backs against the grain and fool them all again and again. I'm trying to. We bitches tear our magazines. Those oligarchs with foaming mouths come now and then. Don't believe for 1 second I'm forgetting you. I'm trying to. I'm dying to.
Damn, man. Nobody can do what the fuck this guy could do. Like, do you know how much Lady Gaga would pay to have those lyrics and say that she wrote them?
Yeah, well, I mean, she does write her own lyrics, so I do want to give her credit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like...
She's not... She isn't the lyricist that Bowie is.
She's a mess.
She doesn't have the ability to put together the same poetic rhythms to the words. And
she's a good pop songwriter, but for fuck's sake, like what I'm getting at though is like this is what she wants to be. This is what she thinks she's capable of in her mind. I'm turning this into a big shit on Lady Gaga, and I don't mean to do that, but I stand by, like, this is the kind of shit she wants to be making, but can't quite get to that level, you know?
Right.
And to see someone like Bowie, who's been around for so long, ultimately realize it, it's just like, this is what all you fucking pop stars have been doing wrong for the past 5 years.
Yeah, it's interesting just comparing the way a real lyricist writes to someone who's not, because there's this need with someone who is not as experienced of one to rhyme words, just to get to the point, and the rhyme is the focus of it, and that's a problem that I've always had writing. I admit I'm not much of a lyricist either, but I love good lyrics, and I just live for it. And when you see someone who's able to write verses that are just so powerful and potent, and sometimes often without even having to rhyme the words together, it's the work of a real craftsman.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the final song on the album, which is, without a doubt, I think one of the strongest closing songs you could possibly go with. It's I Can't Give Everything Away. Mm-hmm. And this song is very much, like several other songs on this, it's explicitly a song about going away, about death.
It is, but it's also oddly uplifting.
Right. It begins with kind of you hear the melodica in the distance, kind of which is kind of like you could equivocate that to like a train whistle pulling in.
That's a good point. I
take
never
you,
thought of it that
you
way.
know, to take you away.
I never interpreted it that way myself, but this is there is an upbeatness and a sly happiness to this song, despite the fact that it is a little dark.
Especially getting into the lyrics of it. I know something is very wrong. The pulse returns for prodigal sons. The blackout's hearts with flowered news, with skull designs upon my shoes. I can't give everything away. And then he repeats that 3 times.
Yo, man, that's fucking crazy.
That is just heartbreaking and vivid, because that's him knowing that his time is running short. And God, it's heartbreaking. And then the bridge verse to it, seeing more and feeling less, saying no but meaning yes. This is all I ever meant. That's the message that I sent.
Did you hear about Bowie's death from the Facebook chat?
Honestly, Bill, you were the first place that I heard that I heard it happen.
Yeah, well, I heard it from Clint from Hollywood. He had told me very, very late into the night, and I was like, "No, you're lying." I was like, "This isn't happening. This can't be real." And then he linked me to the Duncan Jones announcing it on Twitter, and I was kind of drunk, like really fucking drunk. I think you could equate what I had to a nervous breakdown a little bit, because I went downstairs where people are sleeping, and I shouldn't have been doing this, but I start playing Hunky Dory and Ziggy Stardust at full blast on the sound system downstairs.
And did they tell you to stop?
No, nobody woke up, but if they had, I would have probably gotten very belligerent about it.
Yeah.
But that was very therapeutic. That was very cathartic, despite the fact that what you read on the Facebook chat was probably pretty dark, because my comments were along the lines of like, David Bowie's dead and I want to die too.
Yeah, it was pretty awful. And I read, here's the thing, when I wake up in the morning to get to work, my motto is wake up as late as you possibly can to still have enough time to get dressed, clean up, and get to work.
Yes.
And so I don't want to do things when I wake up. I just wake up, I get cleaned up, I throw clothing on, and I get my ass out the door.
Right.
So I was just sitting down at my desk at work, and I had a couple minutes before work started. I turn on my phone, and I see what you had written, and then I'm like, wait a second, that can't be true.
That can't be. That's exactly what I thought when I was told, was this can't be.
So I look it up, and when it hit me that it was absolutely true, it was a shock to the system. And all this time, all these years I've been listening to the music, and I still haven't heard it all. I've heard a lot of his stuff, but not all the albums. And I now felt this need. I need to go back. And that day I purchased Young Americans, which I'd only heard about half of it before. Right. I listened to that at work a few times. And now with Black Star, I think I'm on my 5th full listen of the album. And I don't know where I'm going next, but it's going to be this is going to be a long ride. I'm going to continue on that train for a while.
As you should. And I mean, we might end up doing more recordings about Bowie in the future. We'll see what happens. That's not a promise, nor is it a guarantee, but I'm down for it, because there's tons of his stuff that I haven't heard in full as well. I'm probably less versed in it than you. So, because like I've never heard the Berlin trilogy the whole way through. I've never listened to Scary Monsters all the way through. There's tons of stuff of his that I've never actually sat down with and listened to, given it the proper attention that it deserves.
And isn't it amazing how impactful his career has been, and we're not even completely familiar with everything? I mean,
they're holding back. They've got stuff to be released.
There's still stuff to go, and I want to say, now with that song ending, with I Can't Give Everything Away ending, I can say that it is it's been an honor and a privilege to have Bowie's music to listen to, and I genuinely love it. I think Black Star, it's an album that there's still so much to absorb, and how it compares with the rest of his stuff. I don't even want to give a side-by-side comparison yet. I'm still coming to terms with it.
What do you mean side-by-side comparison? With
well,
what?
you know, I mean, if you want to say, how does Black Star weigh against, say,
I don't.
Ziggy Stardust?
Right, and I don't think you can make that comparison. Really, like, you could try to, you can make the attempt to, but whatever conclusion that you come to would be wrong, because
it wouldn't be fair, because it's just he's such a diversified artist that saying one thing as compared to another it's just not right.
Right, no. This is Ziggy Stardust isn't as personal as this is, and that's weird to say about Black Star, because Black Star is so abstract.
Well, the thing is, Ziggy Stardust, for what it is, and it's one of his greatest albums.
It's fantastic.
It's a stage play of an album. Like, the songs are meant to carry a story within it, but they're not particularly personal.
Yes, and Bowie was such a unique and individual person that he needed to make more personal statements along those lines, and he did. But Ziggy is fucking great. Like, Ziggy's borderline fucking flawless. Right,
exactly. And that's what's interesting about it, is that he didn't always write songs that are autobiographical, but when he did, you know, it was very meaningful. But he could do that. He could do the opposite and still make it just so powerful. He was a showman, hands down.
Yeah.
And so with that note, I do want to close up this podcast and say that we will have more music podcasts for you in the future.
If you're here looking for new Kiss and Tell, because I know a lot of people on our YouTube account like the Kiss and Tell episodes, or maybe you don't like the Kiss and Tell episodes. I don't know why the fuck they get attention. If you like it, if you don't like it, if you're waiting to hear what we have to say so you can shit on it, hey, we're gonna get back to Kiss and Tell.
We are. It's. I think we burned ourselves out trying to do an episode of that. We did a lot. We did a lot. Like, we crammed a lot in there, and
those episodes are funny. Like, they're entertaining. It's just, spacing it out from this point on might kind of be a requirement, because we're really not going to have a lot to say about Asylum. We're really not going to have a lot to say about, like, Hot in the Shade, or, you know, like, a lot of stuff that's coming down the pike. We're probably going to skip over the albums and talk about other things.
Right, or if we talk about the albums, we'll just gloss over them, or maybe cover a couple per episode.
Hot in the Shade, I have some material that I think we could make fun of and stuff like that. So,
yeah. With that said, though, not to get into too much back end, we will continue with our music podcast. We'll just be mixing it up a little bit with this. Now that we've done a couple Bowie episodes, we might do an episode for other artists as well.
I think that we have some interesting things coming down the pike, so stay tuned.
And in the words of Bowie, I had something good that I was going to say, and I lost.
I'm an alligator.